Hello, everybody. My name is Bea Kelleher. I'm the Acting Head of Theatre, and this is the funding clinic for Theatre Project Awards Round 1 2027. That's a great start. I've already got a typo. Um, we are recording this session, so it will be on the website very shortly after this. If you have any questions, put it into the Q&A function, not in the chat function, because we sometimes miss them if they're put in the chat. We only record the clinic part of this session. We don't record the Q&As. We also cannot answer specific questions on specific applications as part of that session. But we can answer questions that pertain to the guidelines. So the contents of today's clinic will be, we're going to go through the project awards, strands 1, 2, and 3, 4, an overview, where to find the guidelines document, about the guidelines, the supporting materials that you need, changes since this time last year on this, top tips and trips, and where to find information on all available funding. The most important information is the deadline, which is 5:30, Thursday, 23rd of July, 2026. That's Irish time. After that, the portal closes. So even if you're halfway through an upload, the portal will close. So make sure that you give yourself plenty of time to upload before that date. The portal is open now. You could be uploading now. The next thing to note, and this is really important, is no activities before the 1st of January 2027. If you put anything in your activities plan that is before that date, your application will be deemed ineligible. The theatre definition for the purposes of applications. The Arts Council's definition of theatre is purely for the purpose of award applications, because we have to be able to say what we do and what we don't fund for this, because it's so highly competitive. So for the purpose of award applications, it's dramatic or post-dramatic work performed in person by actors in front of a live audience in the same space or location. And those three last elements, by actors, not solely by actors, but mainly by actors, with a live audience in the same space, are the three key things. The definition excludes things like radio plays and audio drama, so in other words, not being performed in front of a live audience, or the recording of podcasts, or performance art, public interviews and events, spoken word or slam poetry, or any type of filmed or video performance not performed in front of a live audience. This isn't because we don't think all of these are very, very worthy activities. It's because they're simply funded elsewhere. The next thing to say is just ensure that you're applying under the right art form. We won't prioritise funding for performance events where the primary art form is not theatre, and the most common ones of that is dance and music, or where the main performers are not theatre practitioners. So for instance, the main performers being dancers and musicians, they would come in under dance and music as an art form, or where the primary focus of the work is participatory practice. If your events have any of these elements, apply for the awards from the relevant art form team instead. With participatory practice, the reason is because we prioritise professional theatre under theatre as an art form for funding purposes. Theatre artists who propose work aimed at or involving children or young people may want to apply under that art form instead. And please note they have other mandatory documents. So if your project does involve or is for young people and you're not sure whether you should be applying under theatre or whether you should be applying under CYPA, please ask us. If you apply under theatre but you don't have any of the mandatory documents for CYPA, you might be not allowing yourself the best chance of success. There are 4 strands in projects in round 1, but what do they all do? Strand 1, just as a overview, Strand 1 is to support the development of a new player performance where the playwright is central to the process. Strand 2 is to enable the devising of ideas for new work in a collaborative or interdisciplinary way. The playwright may or may not be the centre of the process of that. The emphasis of this strand is on innovation, experimentation, and collaboration. So first 2 strands, development, second 2 strands, presentation. Strand 3 is the presentation of new work to audiences. Now, this can be the presentation of new plays by a single author, or it can be innovative, experimental, collaborative work, or it can be a new production of a pre-existing text. All of those come in under Strand 3. Strand 4 is for the presentation of ambitious mid to large scale professional theatre productions by artists or producing entities with a demonstrable track record in production of theatre for audiences on a nationwide basis. Strand 4's primary focus is actually on producing work for audiences at scale. So just to go into a bit more detail, Strand 1 play development, this is up to €15,000. It's to enable the development of a new play or performance text in which the playwright is central to the creative process. It may also involve collaboration from any numbers of artists or practitioners. We prioritise applications which seek to write a new play or text for performance and can demonstrate excellence, innovation, and/or experimentation. As with Strand 2, presentations to a general audience are not permitted under this strand, but actually, if you want to do a work in progress reading, a rehearsed reading, a showcase, it is allowable under that. But it cannot be to a general audience. It has to be to an invited audience. There can be no income from that. The outcome of this process will be a script for performance. Under Strand 2, theatre creation, this is up to 26,000. The objective of the theatre creation strand is to enable the devising of ideas for new work in a collaborative and interdisciplinary context where the playwright may or may not be at the centre of the process. The emphasis of this award is on innovation, experimentation, and collaboration. Priority is given to applications which seek to break new ground through innovation and experimentation, seek to develop new forms of theatre through collaboration of more than one creative artist, that demonstrate ambition and excellence in the quality of the dramaturgical support or the collaboration that's proposed, and seek to develop new and innovative concepts for production of pre-existing dramatic material. Obviously, a lot of those is either or, so you don't need to tick all of those. As with Strand 1, presentations to a general audience are not permitted under this strand, but under the strand you are also allowed to do rehearsed readings or showcases, for instance, but it can't be to a general audience and there can be no income from that source. The outcome of this process will be a script or a performance book. So now the next two strands are the presentation strands. Strand 3, which is theatre presentation, is up to 80,000. The objective of the theatre presentation strand is the presentation of new theatre work to audiences. This can be the presentation of new plays by a single author, or innovative, collaborative and/or experimental work, or a new production of pre-existing text. The priority is given to proposals that seek to present artistically ambitious new theatre work to audiences, and that seek to present new work or existing repertoire in a new, innovative and/or experimental context. Please note, the costs for development time on a piece of new writing are not permitted under this strand. Of course, once you're into the rehearsal for the first time on a new play or a new piece, the writer and/or a dramaturg may be part of that rehearsal process, but we wouldn't expect to see the costs for developing in under that, just the normal costs that would cover their time as part of the rehearsal process. The expectation is that whatever play or text proposed for production is rehearsal ready then. So the next strand is for theatre production. This is up to 175,000. The objective of the theatre proposal strand is to enable the presentation of ambitious mid to large scale professional theatre production. The focus is on enabling the production of technically excellent and ambitious mid to large scale theatre to attract and develop audiences for professional theatre throughout Ireland and to offer good quality employment opportunities to freelance theatre artists. Applications must be supported by at least one Arts Council funded organisation with a significant track record in presentation of theatre to audiences. Priority will be given to proposals with the support of organisations in receipt of either strategic funding or Arts Centre funding. Again, like Strand 2, costs for the development time on a piece of new writing are not permitted under this strand because the expectation is whatever play or text is proposed for production is rehearsal ready. However, as per Strand 3, writers and dramaturgical fees may be included to cover adjustments which may arise during the rehearsal period only. So that's it in a snapshot. The upper limits for play development 15,000, theatre creation 26,000, theatre presentation 80,000, theatre production 175,000. You can only apply under one strand of the award and under one art form in any round. You must clearly identify which strand you are applying for in section 1.3 of the application form, and the above totals must include audience access costs where relevant, but not personal access costs, which are additional to the above amounts. And just a note on the personal disability access costs, these are supports which should help you remove barriers for artists or participants with disabilities who are delivering your proposal. For example, that could include you, the main artists or individuals or groups or organisations involved in your proposal, partners, mentors, collaborators, production staff, core staff, key administrative personnel. An example of this could include an ISL interpreter for participant or participants in the development work of it, not for audience. Audience, it needs to come out of your core costs. Services of an access support worker, for instance, for somebody who might be in rehearsals with you or a collaboration in the development of the piece, and additional rehearsal or studio time. We do have more details on that in the guidelines, but you can also contact directly either the theatre team or the disability access team. Disability access team is at disabilityaccess@artscouncil.ie. So, who can apply? What the guidelines say, the guidelines have two different headings of who can apply and who cannot apply. Who can apply, the award is open to professional artists and organisations working in theatre who are resident or based in the Republic of Ireland. If you are a resident outside the Republic of Ireland, there is a section there, 2.2 of your application form, and how your proposal benefits the arts in the Republic of Ireland will determine the eligibility of your application based on that explanation. Full-time employees of organisations funded through strategic funding, Art Centre funding, AGF funding, partnership funding are now eligible to apply, although the emphasis of the project award is on providing paid opportunities to theatre makers, creative producers, etc., and other artists who are not already in receipt of them. So while it's an eligibility thing that you can apply if you are a full-time employee, you may not be the priority of the award. Who cannot apply? You can't apply if you're an organisation currently in receipt of funding under strategic funding, Art Centre funding, or partnership funding, though the involvement of such organisations as partners is welcome. You also cannot apply if you are an organisation or individual that's just been awarded the 2027 Arts Grant funding. You cannot apply if you're a member of the Council of National Cultural Institutions, because that's directly funded by the Department of, actually that should be updated, Culture, Communications and Sport. The individuals or organisations that do not have a demonstrable track record as professional artists or organisations. Individuals currently in undergraduate education, including those seeking foundation courses or who will be during the period for which the award will be offered, and individuals seeking support towards fees for postgraduate, including unaccredited or higher education or study. So what supporting materials you must include? Use Control F, search for the word must. If it says you must include something, then you have to. This is an eligibility issue. Then use Control F and search for the word should. These are things that you definitely should include, and you may be disadvantaging yourself if you don't include them because it's highly competitive, but it's not an eligibility issue if it's a should. And I'll go into that in a bit more detail later. So what must you and should you? It's not a mystery. The guidelines tell you everything that you need to know. Read the guidelines, make a list of what we look for. If you're not sure why we look for them, ask us. If you think it doesn't apply to you, I'm telling you it does now, so ask us. So, guideline with supporting materials in all cases. In order to be considered eligible for assessment for a theatre project award, you must submit the following supporting online material. A separate detailed up-to-date CV or biography, 3 pages maximum, with a clear description of your area of artistic practice and track record. A maximum of 3 samples of work, that demonstrate previous work that is relevant to the proposed project. In Strand 1 only, we do ask for a sample of previous writing for theatre by the playwright as one of the samples of work. 10 pages is fine on this. It's the maximum because we get a lot of this in. It doesn't need to be previously produced writing, however, it just needs to be previous writing for theatre. In Strand 3 and 4 only, where the proposal is to produce a new piece of theatre, you have to provide a 10-page sample or a 10-minute video of the play or work being processed. Sometimes what we get in is full scripts, and we get from the proposer or the applicant read pages like 20 to 29, for instance, out of the script. That's also fine. A separate detailed project award budget on the correct template. We have a mandated template. You have to use it. And in Strand 3 and Strand 4 only, where you're going to be presenting work to a general audience, we do ask for a marketing or dissemination or engagement plan that outlines who the work is for and how they will be enabled or encouraged to engage with it. Other supporting materials, if you've included other key people or organisations in 2.9 of your application, you should also submit additional supporting materials with your application. Brief CVs or biographies outlining their expertise, accreditation and track records. Don't take it for granted that either the assessors or the panel will know who you're talking about or will know why you want them as part of your team. Brief CVs or biographies are very helpful. Letters, emails or MOUs of confirmation outlining the nature of the collaboration or involvement, the agreement, the financial terms. You don't have to name the financial terms. That's in your budget, but they do have to say, yeah, look, we've agreed, we've got an arrangement. Examples might include fees or per diems or accommodation costs, and the acknowledgement that the planned outcomes are understood and agreed. Providing the supporting material will strengthen your proposal and will help in the assessment process. However, what we have done recently is we've downgraded the must to a should in these materials. So if you're missing one, your whole application isn't made ineligible because of that, and we may be in a position to give you the benefit of the doubt. However, in a highly competitive environment, if everybody else has got this in and you don't, you're now competitively weakened. Please feel free to also provide background information on any organisations included in the proposal if they're not ones which the Arts Council is likely to be familiar. And sometimes this is the case with technical suppliers in particular. We just mightn't know them and we mightn't have an idea of what they're contributing to it. So it can just sometimes be helpful. In additional materials, in some cases, you may need to submit some additional supporting materials with your application. Examples of this would be disability access costs, the breakdown of that. There are statements that you need to make about working with young people or vulnerable adults and animals. The guidelines have all of the information on this. Changes since Projects Round 1 2026, which was this time last year. So since then, we've plain Englished the application form. So if you open the application form and the guidelines, so as you're opening the guidelines, you'll see the layout of them has changed. The language that we've used in them have changed. Other than that, there's only 3 real changes. The first one is eligibility regarding supporting materials. Pay close attention to what is now a must and what is a should. So if you have forgotten a letter of support, it is unlikely that your application will be made ineligible. It mightn't be shortlisted because of competitive context, but it's unlikely that it will be made ineligible. But if you forget to upload your own CV or you use the wrong template because they're must-haves, then your application will be ineligible. If you are in doubt, put in everything. If you are further in doubt, ask us. The third change that's happened, and this is more of an environmental change, is the Carson ruling, which basically says, you need to employ people. It can't be on a freelance basis, or if it is on a freelance basis, there needs to be a ruling. There needs to be rationale behind that. There are budget implications. So this is more pointing out to you, we know there are budget implications because of the Carson ruling. It is simply more expensive to employ people than it is to pay people on a fee basis. And the final one is an internal one for us, which is as a response to the feedback that we got on the theatre consultations in the first half of this year. We're now proportioning the funding to favour the presentation of work over the development of work, so that we can just ring fence the presentation of work. So the assessment process. Applications are checked for eligibility, so all supporting materials that need to be present are present, and the application is for the correct award, and it is for the correct award under the correct art form. Second step is all eligible applications go forward for assessment under 3 criteria: artistic quality, meeting the priorities of the award, and feasibility. And there's further information on all of those 3 in the guidelines. The next step is applications that are deemed to meet the criteria to a very good extent within the competitive context are then shortlisted and sent to a peer panel for final deliberations and decision. The next step is that the panel is made up of professional practitioners and is chaired by a current or previous member of the Arts Council. The panel scoring is A to D. It's weighted scoring, and it's based on the propensity to fund. So it's comparative funding, not reflective of the intrinsic value of the application. To have got to panel in the first place reflects the high quality of your proposal. Those decisions are made on the basis of that scoring, and more information on that scoring and on that process is in the back of the guidelines. So, top tips and trips. Tips. Ensure that you've read the latest guidelines. Do not rely on previous guidelines. They are great to give you a flavour for what an award is like, but guidelines change all the time. Do not decide that a must requirement does not apply to your application. It does. If you don't know why, ask us. Do not decide that a should requirement does not apply to your application. It does. If you don't know why, or you feel that it won't affect the outcome, ask us. Do not assume this. Ask us. Make sure that you are happy with that you are applying for the right award. So in other words, under the right art form, or if it's not actually for the development or production of a piece of work, is it a bursary that you should have been applying for? Make sure that your work samples support the work that you want to make in this application. The reason that we ask for work samples is when we are looking at the artistic merit criteria, we want to be able to see evidence that you can produce the type of work that you are telling us in the application that you want to produce. Ensure that you're applying to the right art form, which I've just said. Give yourself plenty of time, and if in doubt, ask us. It's what we're here for. Ask us. Trips are the most common mistakes to avoid. Not giving yourself enough time to prepare and upload is the most common mistake. So, you give yourself a week before the end to pull everything together, and then you're at the last minute uploading. More than half of our applications get uploaded on the day of the deadline, which puts an enormous strain on a very old server, but it also puts an enormous strain on you. And the amount of times that we've had people coming to us after the deadline is passed saying, I was mid-upload. I just didn't get to upload any of the CVs because I ran out of time. Well, now your application is ineligible. Not reading the current guidelines carefully, or assuming you know them, or asking people who do know them, who've been previously successful, to interpret them for you. Ask us. Come directly to us. If you've got any questions, ask us. Not uploading all must and should supporting materials. Although shoulds are no longer an eligibility criteria, they are a strength and evidence criteria. So please upload them. Not checking any technical specifications well ahead of the deadline. This is more to do with what type of computers can you upload stuff for. Tablets are still problematic, for instance. Not giving yourself enough time to register if you're a first-time applicant. 5 days is the key. Not demonstrating feasibility regarding paying the artist, including you as the applicant. Not asking for amount which is allowable, so either below or above a threshold which is allowed in the award. And when in doubt, you didn't ask us for clarity, please ask us. We're here to help you. This is why we're here. We're here to help you. So where to find information? On the funding blade, apply for funding, sign up for our newsletter, and look on social media. Out of those 3, the first 2, we have a funding page, and all of our funding and upcoming funding is in our newsletter. So between the 2 of those, you'll get all of the information. So if you have any queries on any of the eligibility, ineligibility, or technical aspects of your application, contact us. First port of call, theatre@artscouncil.ie. We try to get back to every query that comes into this box within 1 working day. Katrina Fury is our very able theatre assistant. She works with us on Thursdays and Fridays. Niamh Giles, superb theatre officer. Jesse Weaver, who most of you know, is the support manager for theatre. He's responsible for projects, but he's away at the moment, which is why I'm doing this clinic. And then there's me, acting head of theatre. Finally, just as a note, please let us know when you have a production on or a reading, rehearsed reading, or anything that you're sharing with people. Please give us as much notice as you can. We do our best to get along because it helps us build up a picture of you as an artist and you as a collective.